Men, what's a toxic trait you commonly see that never gets called out on?
Being too assertive and intimidating people to do everything it takes to get things done. At ball busting, people are great initially, but they wear people out and create a toxic environment as time goes on. These people get promoted and then the management can't understand why people are quitting.
Accusing someone of gaslighting can also be a form of gaslighting.
Making everything a competition.
Making fun of others to feel good about themselves. Happy wife, happy life.
Weaponized laziness and indifference, like straight up doing as little as possible out of a knowing disregard, or actively behaving in a way that rolls back someone's edit. I see some of you chimed in with passive aggression, which is a great contribution in its own right. And I would include sarcasm, alongside. I'm speaking about the behaviors that manifest in a way that's less focused, malicious. You, Saratahokage 1212 has provided a great example just below.
Labeling anything someone does that you don't agree with as toxic. Generalizing the opposite gender, but also hating to hear a generalization about yourself, your gender edit. For the people saying that, this is often called out, maybe in some people's circles or whatever, but obviously not for everyone, which is why it comes up. Your experience is not universal truth, and I can't believe how many times I have to try to explain that to other people.
I'm a little psycho tihehe.
Open up and tell me what you're up greater than stop trauma dumping, using me for emotional, it's close relative. Open up and tell me what you're up greater than uses any comment as ammunition to attack and
interrupting. Grusa, tired of it with a few guys I used to hang with. I just don't anymore unless it is one-on-one. My go-to reply was always, I'm sorry. Did the middle of my sentence interrupt the beginning of yours?
Playing the victim card so many times it becomes your personality.
women hitting men, because just don't hit people.
In other men, massive egos that are super sensitive. This often gets mistaken for confidence, but when you see how these types of guys handle failure, you know it's not confidence. In women, blatant sexism. I've met so many ladies who are just outright bitter at men and are super vocal about it. Nobody says a word about it. If I say anything half as sexist as that, I get lit up.
Women abusing men domestically and getting away with it, to the point of being able to get the victim arrested for speaking the truth about that's going on.
Straight up bullying. Sure buddy, that's a joke, not an insult to someone's appearance that hurts their feelings.
Narcissism and manipulative behavior.
Purposely misunderstanding something that is obvious just to toy or frustrate the person that is trying to explain.
Openly celebrating misandry and claiming misandry is not real.
Women talking about size. Women talking about private with relative strangers they work with or call friends.
Self-absorption. People will hit you with carts, turn without signals, overtighten their front car windows, walk 4 wide on all me.
Using the word creepy to indicate a man they don't find attractive.
A toxic trait I see in women I know, having no regard for everyday nice things that men do, but having extremely high regard for grand gestures on special occasions.
How women can get away with harassing men and not face consequences or start grooming on younger man. I'm a weightlifter and so my bicep are kinda tense. Had one older lady kept rubbing my bicep, it and made me really uncomfortable. I said something to my higher up and go laughed at like she was legit caressing my right arm, which was awkward and made me almost start a scene.
Body shaming. Having misandrist beliefs and being public about them.
Not speaking up for oneself, and being too deferential, or people are rewarded for this, at least in the short term. They're well liked, seen as good listeners, good sports, and complimented for all of these things. Complimented for how chill they are. They have lots of friends, and no one ever says anything bad about them. The benefits seem very real. Sadly, this can fester and turn toxic. It's not emotionally healthy to stuff your feelings down for the sake of others too much. And being too conflict averse often results in a slippery of being taken for granted, taken advantage of, and attracting more and more of the kinds of people who will happily take from you without ever giving back, often completely unaware to the it will boil over. You might become passive aggressive and testy, or you might just outright snap one day and burn your. It's a very difficult thing to call out. It's not super apparent, and when it is, the people who do it are often too tied to their identity. as a chill person that they may not even recognize what you're pointing out.
Equating any activity or object to size. There is absolutely no correlation to any of it. That dude with a huge lifted truck, a fancy sports car, or that owns 15 guns? He may have a massive guy you hang with that acts confident and hits on all the girls and takes one home whenever he wants. He could have a tiny trying to shame someone for something they do or don't do, and equate it to size is just not very nice.
Man-hating ideologies, the reaction towards men having standards and preferences, etc.
Victimhood. It's one thing to recognize challenges facing you. It's quite another to blame everyone else for your problems, or to give up hope thinking the system is rigged against you.
Talking over I'm a guy, but often I'll shut up and just see how long it takes my guy friends to notice they're the only one talking. Often loudly, and not allowing others to join will sometimes interrupt and say something like, "What do you think?" of one of the quieter people, often the women, and make it clear they're dominating that feel a need to fill every moment of silence with talk, or just waiting for someone to finish so you can say what's on your I'm done being polite to them. I point it out, rudely if necessary. It's a plague. And sure, some women are guilty, but in my group of friends, it's only the men.
Or a trait that I wish got called out more, note, ideally by people who are not themselves absolute fuckwits, is the tendency one often encounters of women, including otherwise very nice and reasonable women, to describe men doing perfectly reasonable things, in a jokey way, as being in some way toxic or misogynistic. If someone asks me a direct question, non-rhetorically, my answering that question to the best of my ability is not mansplaining, and describing it as such, even as a joke, is really irritating. It both puts me down as someone whose opinion is not considered actually worthwhile, and diminishes the power of the accusation when it is being leveled seriously.
Thinking that everyone should trust these politicians like you do.
These folks are straight up exhausting. At least with typical psychopaths, you can learn to counter their manipulations. Relentless, never let up types just annihilate the workforce. Have had many types of bosses, but agree this kind sucks the people into the ground doesn't prove you're a good boss. It proves you lack enough intelligence to work smarter. Or, you're just a Either way, no.
Can also be a way of avoiding admitting that you can be incorrect about something that happened with no other witnesses. Refusal to even consider that one's own recollection could be incorrect is a deal breaker.
My ex did this all the time. Would try to gaslight me and then tell me I was gaslighting her when I genuinely had idea what she was on about.
Can confirm. Holy that drives me crazy.
Yeah, this one's exhausting. The constant insecure attempts to compare, one-up, brag, usually goes hand in hand with a gossip queen too. I think it stems from need for approval, I guess. Some people just view friends as competitors, which is kind of a waste, because they can be a great source of happiness and collaboration.
Happy wife, happy ex-wife used to say this to me to justify her demands that I pander to what she wants.
Next time reply with, happy spouse, happy house.
Greater than weaponized laziness, greater than like, straight up doing as little as possible out of a knowing disregard. I one-up this by adding that they even joke and laugh about their own laziness. Not to mention in teams or groups to get bailed out by the others and then claiming they were the deciding piece for succeeding.
I remember I asked my dad to get garlic powder from the store so I could make dinner for everyone. He deliberately took over an hour and said, "I guess that's what happens when you ask me to do things." And he wonders why mom only makes food for herself now.
As a woman, I can promise you we discuss weaponized incompetence a lot in our mum groups, and we call our men out on it when we can. Unfortunately, when we are the ones it is aimed at, us saying something doesn't do much.
Many of these words have lost all meaning because of like this. And as soon as the barb is thrown, it seems everyone else just accepts it without question.
In a similar vein, labeling a number of behaviors as is an awful, but very specific thing. Gaslighting and toxic are probably the most misused words today.
That's basically the out-group homogeneity, which is the perception of out-group members as more similar to one another than are in-group members. They are alike. We are diverse.
Yeah. If you spend enough time in a space dominated by one gender, you quickly realize how incredibly blind we both are, men and women, to our faults, and how very aware we are of the faults of the other gender.
Yeah, why are women like that?
When people do this now, I just say, "Can I finish what I'm saying?" Do it enough and it lessens how often you get interrupted.
Definitely. I have ADHD and I had basically no friends until I learned to stop interrupting people. People are very understanding if I ask them to repeat something because I've missed it, but if I start talking in the middle of what they are saying, it will them off 100% of the actually made this username to remind myself to listen to others with the goal of understanding them instead of the goal of being understood.